Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for another episode of the Mulliner and Musgrove show with me, Andrew Musgrove, and him, Sam Mulliner. And today we're going to talk about the imminent arrival of a certain Hugo Ekitike. Yes, the man United wanted 3 years ago finally looks like he's going to get that move to Tyneside. Sam, welcome back to the podcast. How are you keeping? Are you well?
Good. You used one of these taboo words there, imminent, which has been out of my mind palace since the 3 year takeover saga, or longer than that, wasn't it? The takeover saga years when everything was imminent. But yeah, I'm intrigued by your use of it there because that means it's going to happen. It's almost here. It's going to get done.
I believe it is. We're recording this. It's just gone 9:30 on Tuesday, the 15th of July. So it will come out later on Tuesday morning. But as things stand, Newcastle United are really going for this deal. It's come a little bit out of the blue. I understand there's quite a bit of happiness that they managed to keep it quiet for so long because talks intensified over the weekend. Then it's come out at the beginning of this week that Newcastle United are really pushing to sign Ekitike. And everyone you speak to, they sound confident that this deal is going to happen. And Sam, it'd be such a statement, wouldn't it? I mean, the price tag alone before we get onto the player would be one statement to begin with.
Yes, but it's always under that proviso of the future of Alexander Isak. So it is exciting. It 100% is exciting. Um, it's a player that's kind of always been on the radar. And Newcastle, this is where Newcastle, since the takeover, have excelled with their big deals because it's kind of kept under wraps. It's quite murky and nothing really happens. And then maybe the odd smoke screen gets in there as well. And then all of a sudden, bang! Final stages of negotiations, player fees, player details have almost been ironed out, and then yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. It happened with Bruno, it happened with Isak, Tonali, where there was that smokescreen of Nicola Barella. So yeah, it's where Newcastle really excel. Obviously, fans have been patient, and there was frustration a few weeks ago because nothing really was happening, and we were seeing teams that were largely involved in the Club World Cup. There was some exceptions as well, with the likes of Liverpool doing good business. But yeah, patience looks like it's been rewarded. Yeah, good things come to those who wait, which was
Certainly so.
Guinness Extra
We
Cold, I believe.
Yes, brilliant advert. We will talk about Isaac later in the show, but it's all positive. It's all good news because Ekitike is not coming in as a replacement for Alexander Isaac, but to play alongside him. But I want to focus first, Sam, on this price tag. He has a release clause of £86 million. There is some belief from Newcastle quarters that they may be able to get him for less than that. I think talks at the moment, at the time of recording, are around the 75 million pound mark, which would be a significant saving on what the release clause is. And we know, though, Frankfurt are notoriously good sellers from their point of view. They get the money they want more often than not. So it'll be a little bit of a surprise if they manage to get anything off that release clause, but there is certain confidence they may be able to. It's a huge amount of money. It would be a club record signing. But it's exciting, isn't it? This is what we've always wanted from Newcastle United, to be in the market for all these top players and being able to spend this money with the hope and ambition to actually build a team that can challenge for top honours.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting a lot of business this summer because of the PSR kind of constraints being lifted somewhat for this year, for this summer's like numbers, books, whatever you want to phrase it. But I don't think we were expecting a club record deal. 75 plus 10 in add-ons seems to be the kind of numbers that have been floated around by your Ornsteins of this world. But yeah, the way this market has been, the prices are so inflated, which was a bit of a surprise. But Ekitike outscored Sesko in the Bundesliga last season, and Sesko was being touted around for 90 million. So when you look at it like that, you would say it's about right. I always think things are too expensive because I don't know, maybe I'm just tight, but it doesn't really matter. The fees only really kind of for us really. I mean, if some would say we overpaid for Livramento, but it's turned out to be a masterclass. Same for Hall, again the same result. So if Newcastle, the hierarchy, the powers that be, think he's worth what they're going to pay for him, then we're on board. We have to be. They have earned that trust well and truly with the transfer business they have done since the takeover. So yeah, it's exciting. I think they're gambling as well a little bit in that this is a huge season, and I spoke about it a few weeks ago that we are now in the position where yes, we've got the first trophy. That monkey is off our back. A trophy and Champions League qualification in the same season um, is kind of setting the standard now. To keep hold of these players, you have to be. This is where we're at now. We have to be qualifying for the Champions League every season minimum. So to keep Isak where I think he's staying this summer, I've never been in any doubt whatsoever. Um, in 12 months' time, this signing of Ekitike could prove pivotal because he will help. You would like to think, get help us to achieve that level. And I don't know, maybe a title challenge. I'm not saying we can go and win it because I still think we're a little bit off, and there's still very much some work to do in the transfer market this summer. But yeah, I think it's a gamble, and it's a gamble worth taking. And I think it's a gamble they have to take because of the position we're now in. It's a nice position to be in, but yeah, you've got to be having these big seasons, and we almost have to improve on last season. Of course, we have to improve, certainly in terms of league position, um, because there is improvement to be had. Because there were so many fixtures last season where we were pretty flimsy, so there's still plenty of improvement to be had. And yeah, Ekitike having a fantastic two-pronged attack like that is something to really whet the appetite.
Well, a few things to pick up on there. First off, about the trust that those at the club have earned, and I say this pretty much every episode that I back them 100%. I have got a little bit of doubt about Ekitike, which we'll get into in a moment. But I think from the point about the club and the trust, we know that they tend to do this with the long-term targets. And it says a lot, doesn't it, Sam, that although they were rejected by Ekitike back in, 3 years ago now when he joined PSG, and obviously didn't have the best time at PSG, limited game time, but only managed 3 goals and 25 appearances for them. The fact that they've gone back in for him and they haven't been stung by that, or they haven't, just moved on to other targets, means that they must really like and see something in this young man to have gone back in, despite the fact that he turned them down at the first time of asking.
Yeah. Again, it was a name that was. I remember being on Sky when we were like pretty much done, and like when we were going to sign Chris Wood, and even then Ekitike was being mentioned, and this was like the first window post takeover. So they've identified him early, great age. I just, I suppose, to kind of look upon him favourably now because it looks like he's going to join us when before he didn't. When you're a young French player, can you turn down PSG and go on and play with Mbappe? I mean, to kind of compare, had we gone for, if the takeover had happened 5 years before and we were trying to get Tonali from Brescia, and then all of a sudden AC Milan, his boyhood club, comes in for him, he's probably going to go to Milan. So I suppose in that sense you can't blame him too much that he joined PSG, considering where we were at that time as well. Nowhere near as strong a position as we're now in the present day. But look, he's shown character to rebuild, to be bold enough to move away from Paris and to kind of take one step back for two steps forward. That kind of shows a great deal of character. He could have stayed at PSG. He could have stropped. He could have, he could have happily sat on the bench and pick up a medal here and there and get in photos, a la John Terry. But he hadn't. He's gone abroad, rebuilt himself in Germany, and done tremendously well. So you would say, in essence, makes him pass the character test that is so important to Eddie Howe and the whole squad ethos.
I imagine the answer to this question is going to be short and simple, and it might be just as simple as the Champions League, Sam. But why do you think Ekitike wants to now join Newcastle United?
Because he's seen the project that was put to him in 2022. He's seen it come to fruition. He's seen it progress. He's seen, they've been able to back it up, and they've seen Eddie Howe work wonders with a squad that has been troubled by injury, troubled by PSR constraints, and still to achieve Champions League qualification in 2 out of the 3 seasons, win a trophy. So yeah, it's very much still an enticing project, and to have the chance to play with Isak, Tonali, these are big players around Europe. And I don't think we quite realise what we've got, because we probably do with Isak now because of the whole Arsenal shtick and then the whole Liverpool thing. It's just mind-numbingly, yeah, but. It's a big boon to have these kind of players. Bruno, he's a huge character. I mean, even the likes of Trippier going abroad, winning a league title, not with Barca or Real Madrid in Spain, is a big deal. So yeah, there's plenty to go on. It's a very attractive prospect, and yeah, I hopefully it can get done, or unless Chelsea come and swoop in again, but I would sooner Ekitike than João Pedro.
Well, I was going to ask you that because the numbers are not too dissimilar. Is Ekitike better than João Pedro?
Higher ceiling for sure. I appreciate Pedro's had a great start at Chelsea in the glorified exhibition tournament, but I still maintain that to-do he had at the end of the final with Luis Enrique. I think he's a bit of a D-head, and I don't think he passes the character test, which was my main concern. Ekitike, you could argue that has those same question marks, but I made the point. I like the fact he left Paris to kind of rebuild himself, and having a good playing career is important to him, rather than just collecting medals for Liga and titles and this, that, and the other at PSG. So, yeah, I think Ekitike has a higher ceiling, and look, the fact that, like a Sven Botman, that we couldn't get first time around, we've stuck with trying to get him and go in for him again. I think tells you all you need to know. Maybe it's a change of system coming up as well. And Ekitike can be versatile as well. So we've talked about formations, and maybe Howe was looking at the 3 at the back. You could argue we're looking at a 4-2-3-1 now, with Ekitike just off Isak, Alanga and Gordon or Barnes on the wings, with Bruno and Tonali in midfield. That's utter filth.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting excited, aren't they, about the prospect of, as you say, number 10 or even 2 up top. And I'll get into that.
Allows as well. It allows strength in depth, because you've got players like Murphy who is versatile, can play either wing. You've got Barnes that can come in. Joe Linton can be rotated. He's very versatile, playing in alongside the 2 sat in front of the back 4 or on the wings as well. It gives Eddie Howe a lot of options to manage his squad.
It certainly does. We will still see, though, I think, in a lot of games, not every game, but we will still see the formation he's been using for the majority of last season, which would lead to the question about what is Ekitike being sold here. Now, I know there's plenty of games to be had. There's lots of competitions Newcastle United are going to be in, but it would be interesting to know exactly what he is being told about this move to Newcastle United. Is it back up to Alexander Isak? And I know you don't like that word, Sam, and neither do I, but this is what people are talking about. Is it in his shadow for a year, learn from him, and then, as you have maybe suggested, or others have suggested, that Isak goes next summer potentially. I mean, there's lots of question marks over Ekitike's role if he does sign this season. I mean, what do you see? Is it those two playing together? Is it him in the background slightly and learning? How do you see it happening?
Well, again, that's what I meant by the gambling. So they're having this season together to try and maximise our output on the field and try and give ourselves the best chance of getting us high up the Premier League table, to challenge in the Champions League, to maybe go and win another domestic cup. I take your point that this may, well, if things don't go to plan, that this could be Isak's final season at Newcastle. If it is, then you've got your replacement. You're not then having to go into a market where you think, right, Newcastle have got 150 plus million in their back pocket. We know they're now after a striker. All of a sudden, every striker around Europe has Newcastle tax on it, and it's another 30 million to the asking price. So I think it's very shrewd. I think it's very sensible. And again, it's a gamble for this season, which will hopefully pay off, and we can keep them both long term. But there is that kind of safety net there as well. I mean, hopefully Isak signs a new contract. They give him the number 9, and everyone's happy for life. But yeah, it's football, so these things can happen. It's a sensible, shrewd move.
For me, I'm not too concerned about Alexander Isak leaving next summer. I think he could well stay. I know a lot of people are seeing this arrival of Ekitike as the long-term replacement to Alexander Isak, but I'm not convinced that is. If Newcastle United build on the success of last season, then there's no
But
reason
that's the
why.
thing, though. You just said you're not concerned about next summer. So if we finish 6th without a trophy and we go out in the group stage of the Champions League, kind of worst
Well,
case scenario,
but
you would still be confident of keeping Isak.
as I was about to say, it does depend on Newcastle building on the success of the season they've just had. But with the signings they're making, there's no reason why they can't do that. And obviously, if Isak signs a new deal, even if Newcastle do finish 6th, then it is still very much in their hands about price tag and what have you, about how much it would cost whoever wanted to come in for him. So I think Newcastle's still in a really strong place of power when it comes to Isak, no matter what the new season brings. But I do think they're buying the right players, they're going after the right players to ensure that both him and Newcastle United are successful long term. I'm going to go into my slight concerns on Ekitike in a moment. I just want to say thank you to Saily, our sponsors of the podcast, new eSIM service app provided by the creators of NordVPN. Here you can choose from several affordable eSIM data plans in over 200 destinations. With a Saily eSIM, you'll always have a connection when needed. If you've ever been lost abroad or badly needed an internet connection with no Wi-Fi spot in sight, you'll understand what a difference a local SIM card can make. An eSIM provides an internet connection wherever you travel and saves you money on your roaming fees. You download the app once and away you go. Affordable prices, global and regional plans to choose from, and 24/7 support. If you want to sign up and you're going abroad, then do hit the link in the podcast description box for a discounted offer on your eSIM. It is cheap, it's affordable, as I've said, it's secure. Stay connected and support the podcast at the same time. Right, Sam.
Your concerns?
Yes. Right. My concern is that the lad has only really, he has only had one prolific season in the last 3. Before that, he scored 10 and 24 for, who was it?
Rands.
Rams, yeah, before he's moved to PSG. I would have liked one more prolific season for the price Newcastle are set to pay for him. And I know if he had that, then his price jumps up even more and there'd be other teams in for him. I get that. It's not going to happen, in the world. But in my head, I'm thinking 22 goals in all competitions is a great haul for last season. But for the season before, okay, he was only on loan from the February, so we take that into account. 3 and 25 at PSG, okay, again, game time limited, and then 10 and 24, as I say. I just look at the price tag they're paying, and I think is his goal record in the last 4 or 5 years worthy of that, or is that just a sign of the market? And as you're probably going to tell me, any signing is a risk.
Yeah, it is. However, well, not however. Based on that logic, then you would have said at the time we were overpaying for Isak, we were overpaying for Livramento, we were overpaying for Bruno, we were overpaying for Botman. This is where you've got to have faith in your scouting network. And as we've already alluded to, they have earned the right tenfold to more than justify what they've paid for these players and what they're paying for Ekitike. Again, I think we paid too much for Elanga, your man. But again, transfer fees is it's not. I don't think you can take too much notice of them these days because the market is ridiculous. It's for the kind of boardroom to manage with PSR and this, that, and the other. I mean, look, we knew the budget was around about 150 mil without selling players. So if Longstaff does go, if Leeds come back in with another bid, is a Harvey Barnes vulnerable? Maybe. A Joe Willock, perhaps. But again, they've been adamant that none of the kind of big name players will be sold this summer. So again, the gambling. It's a gamble. Isak was a gamble. Would you have said, like we've said before, would Isak's goal record have justified £63 million? I was Isak's biggest fan, as you well know, before we got him, and I knew what we were getting. But like you admitted yourself, if Ekitike had another season in the Bundesliga and then all of a sudden he's scoring 25 goals and he's going alongside Harry Kane for the Golden Boot, then all of a sudden it's 150 million, just like we're demanding for Isak. So it's the right time. You're getting these players at the right time. The scouting network and the way we operate, we get these players when they're on the cusp of doing, entering their peak years, and with a bit of coaching know-how that Eddie Howe is so good at, then it makes these fees, where at the time seem hyperinflated, it makes them seem reasonable. Like Tonali, Isak, Livramento, Botman, the list goes on, and hopefully Ekitike will result in the same.
My fingers crossed. And it does go back to that point that you trust those who've done their homework, put the reports together. And of course, we have massive faith in Eddie Howe's coaching style, that he takes Ekitike and turns him into this world-class player that the price tag would suggest he can be. I mean, it's just scary, though, to think that a man of this age, with that record, and I get what you're saying about Isak, but he had hit double figures in every season at Sociedad, so had a slightly better record and then suffered an injury, hadn't he? I think at some point as well. But again, it's all stats and numbers. You compare them whichever way. But I just
again, as well, we're just like, to put it down into the simplest possible terms, in terms of Eddie Howe's coaching ability, he's turned Joe Linton into a borderline world-class midfielder. He's turned Jacob Murphy into, I mean, look at his numbers last season, Murphy. They're remarkable. Raf Benitez couldn't get that out of him. I mean, he's turned Emil Kraft into a competent Premier League defender. He was awful when we signed him.
I've got no doubt about Eddie Howe's coaching ability. Don't get me wrong at all. It's just something in the back of my head looks at Ekitike and just I need to be convinced, and that's only going to happen through him playing and scoring goals. And I've got full belief that he will, get rid of that little doubt in the back of my mind.
Well, it's pressure. It's pressure. It's a club record signing, so it's pressure on not just the player. It's pressure on the people that have brought him in for such a high amount of money. But they've earned the right.
No, 100%. And the fact is, Newcastle United have been ambitious. They think this chap is the man to break their transfer record for. And as we say, and we've said countless times in this episode alone, you back them to get it right, because they've done very little wrong, if anything at all, in the transfer market. And they've earned the right to go out and build this squad for Eddie Howe. And what I've been really impressed with, Sam, over the last few days is just how quick they've moved to get this deal done. Obviously, we were all waiting and scrapping around for any bit of hope about a transfer coming through. Then Alanga came out of the darkness, and then it was a little bit of a delay to get that one confirmed and announced and happening. There was real excitement. Of course, we're waiting on James Trafford, but there's a belief that that one's going to get done in the next few days as well. And then this one's just come totally out of the blue. And they've moved at real speed, though, to get this done over the last few days. And fingers crossed it gets concluded in the next 24 to 48 hours. And I think you've just got to praise those leading the transfer negotiations, especially when you consider that, Paul Mitchell is gone. They haven't got a sporting director. Now, whatever you think about Paul Mitchell, the sporting director would usually be key in these transfer negotiations, and that's his role. So there's a little bit of pressure on Steve Nixon and Andy Howe, but they've done all right with Alanga, and they're doing all right with this deal, and hopefully they'll get Trafford over the line. And I think if they manage to get Ekitike and Trafford on top of Alanga, I mean, that's not a bad way to start your sort of new role, or to bring that new kind of team into the limelight, is it?
I mean, you failed to mention Darren Eales as well, who's also on the way out. This could be his kind of swan song, kind of parting gift, if you like. There's another, he's brought in 2 club record transfer strikers to Newcastle United, and I think another point as well is, in terms of fee and whatnot, he's a striker. They're the most expensive players. When you look at Darwin Núñez, he cost Liverpool 100 million, and they're on about flogging him for still about 60 plus. He's awful. So, with Sesko as well, who hasn't, he's a good player. He'd have been on my list to eventually replace Isak when that does happen. Then he'd have been nudging 100 million because of his potential. Osman, who knows? But you look at Rashford as well, still going for 40 plus to Barcelona. Why Barca want to entertain him, I have no idea. But these are players that cost a premium, and they don't even have to be that good. So it's just excitement for me, not really any kind of nervousness.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm very excited about this deal. I love the fact Newcastle are being ambitious and they're going out to sign someone they think is one of the best talents in European football. There's a reason Liverpool have been linked to Manchester United and other teams as well. Are you a little bit surprised, Sam, that those names who have been linked haven't gone in for him at this time?
Yeah. And that obviously still could happen. That might kind of, for example, get Liverpool's backside into gear. Man United were interested, but again, if anyone wants to go to Man United these days over Newcastle, then we don't want them, because it's just an attitude thing. It's peculiar. So hence why Alanga's here and Mbermo's not. So there could be a late threat from the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea buy every player under the sun. So you never quite know what they're thinking. Arsenal are looking like they've got Gyökeres now, who my big kind of shock opinion, I think he'll flop.
I do as well. I do. I think he's going to flop.
That means what are his odds for the Golden Boot? Then people really should lump on.
But then what's funny about that, right, Sam, is like I've just complained there about Ekitike's goal scoring record, but you look at his record at Sporting, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And people will be listening and watching, saying, "Well, what on earth do you base your opinions on, Andrew?" And I don't
Portuguese
really know,
league doesn't have the greatest strength in depth, does it? And it just goes to show it's not an exact science, and football is. It's a fantastically stupid game with these kind of things, and your logic comes from left, right, and centre. But
just talk to us before we sign off. And once again, we're recording this on Tuesday morning. Where things are, claims that Ekitike's agent is on Tyneside, but that's not been stood up yet. Claims that Newcastle officials are over in Germany trying to get this deal sorted. Of course, Newcastle are in Austria at the moment, just over the border at a training camp. I know the conditions and scenery look absolutely superb. And again, so close proximity to get this deal done. Talks are definitely ongoing. They seem to be getting closer to that agreement. I don't think personal terms will be an issue. That's where we're at the time of recording. Sam, just tell us what they're getting in Ekitike, and also the fact that you haven't mentioned this probably suggests that he wasn't someone you touted in your long list of emerging talents 3 years ago.
No, not 3 years ago. No, I can't claim anything.
Look at that.
I'm not claiming anything for this one. My whole hopes of kind of 3 players in a row are rested on Scalvini. In terms of what we're getting,
Potentially.
I mean, yeah, potentially. My word. Pace, kind of. I'm trying to avoid a direct comparison to Isak himself, but they do have that kind of similar attributes, and they can have those versatile traits where, Ekitike could maybe pull over to the right, play just off Isak. Isak, as we know, can pull off to the left. And also, as we saw a few years ago, playing the 10 just behind Wilson, which they did superbly at like Brentford away back in the day, to come from behind to win there. Ekitike, yeah, lively, sprightly, goal threat, big goal threat, which is what you want from a striker. But yeah, really exciting, enthusiastic, who is on the up and up. Fantastic season, rebuild at Frankfurt, where he did get the opportunities. Obviously, they lost Marmoush to City in January as well. But yeah, he's got such great potential, and I suppose it's interesting from his international career that he might just get scuppered by Mbappe again, because obviously he's the be all and end all for France, which I think is slightly misguided at the best of times. But yeah, he's potential and fantastic, and he's the world's is at his feet.
2 quick fire questions then. Firstly, what does this mean for Will Asula in terms of his development?
No change. He will. And I don't think it's an issue for Asula whatsoever, because he's, as we've discussed many times, he's not ready to be that second striker, and it gives him more time to develop. There's no rush with him. He can be, like we've said, I think he's going to be a late bloomer. There is a player in there. He's great to have around the gaff, and I don't think it's any concern whatsoever for Asula.
And finally, Isak, Ekitike, are they going to play if the guy signs the majority of next season together? They're going to start the majority of games together, do you think?
Yes.
So a formation change potentially then in the offing.
I would love to see a 4-2-3-1.
Okay.
I just think it would lend so much to our attributes as a squad.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the prospect of having someone like Ekitike to play alongside, play just behind, or to compete with Alexander Isak is very exciting. It's what we've called for the last 3-4 years. So to go from last week trying to convince ourselves that maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin wouldn't be the worst option because it would help the budget, to go into this and a potentially club record transfer fee, it just shows you the weird and wonderful nature of the transfer market, and that things can be kept in the dark as well, which is wonderful, if not a little bit annoying from a journalist perspective. But anyhow, that is the latest on Hugo Ekitike potentially moving to Newcastle United. Confidence that this deal can be done, and what a statement signing it would be if indeed Newcastle finally get their man. From me and Sam, we will see you guys next week.